Greetings once again. I am Aleph Knoll Productions, and I am pleased to bring you another Dev Diary for Platon. We are getting kind of towards the end of our development of Platon. There's only a few more things that need to get fixed. This week was all about polish. So the first thing I did was there was the bug that existed that made it so that the game would just randomly end. And that has now been fixed. I figured out, it's actually kind of funny. So the object that is your target, I believe that was the thing that was causing it to fail. Sometimes that was still being considered to be a valid element, and when that was true, then it would detect that it was in the inside and would cause the end state of the game. So now that doesn't seem to happen. If you do still get that game over bug where as soon as you start the game ends, please report it to me as soon as you possibly can on my Twitter at Aleph Knoll Productions or as a comment on my YouTube, wherever, because as far as I know, it is gone. Next, I worked a little bit on, as you can see already, a visual indicator for when you have 3 in a row. What I discovered was, I think I can teach people how to play the game with just a couple of static images that teach the 2 basic concepts. Shoot something that's the same as you and it destroys it and keeps going. Shoot something that's different than you and it swaps, right? Those things I think I can probably build just a static image in order to figure it out. But the concept that 3 of them makes into a Metatron cube, I discovered, is much more difficult to pass along and doesn't really work as opening knowledge. So same with the fact that you can shoot the crystals in order to spawn things, etc., etc. So because the Metatron cube is so important, and because there's no indicator or there's no instructions as to why they're important, basically now if there's 3 in a row, they will sparkle like crazy as a way of kind of indicating to the player that there's something going on here. And maybe they'll want to do something with it. And then they'll discover what happens when you destroy 3 in a row. And then maybe they'll shoot the Metatron's cube and figure out what happens when that happens. And I like that. I like the idea of discovery, right? So the nature of the Metatron's cube is kind of drawn to, and then its effect is experimented with. That, I think, is probably a really good thing. So finally, the last thing that I did, I believe it was the last thing I did this week, it was kind of a short week because I focused on Platon Dev Diary, which I can talk about in just a second. But the final thing that I did this week was I changed the way that level 9 works. So I was unhappy, I believe I talked about this last time, I was unhappy with the fact that level 9 feels like it can become a slog. If you aren't defeated by just the normal 1 second 5 elements thing, like the difficulty of level 9, then you can actually live in level 9 for quite some time, long enough so that it's no longer fun and interesting, and it just becomes kind of a tedious task. And that is not okay. So I decided to make level 9 a bit more interesting. Now it is basically impossible to win level 9 for too long. Every 10 seconds, every 10 seconds the game will actually speed up by 10%. And this affects everything. This affects the speed of the spawns, this affects how fast you can move. It's just so, basically, once you hit level 9 and the white sparkles happen, it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier until you lose. So that way, everybody kind of, you know that you have been pushed to your limits, and then you can go and try again and try to do better. Maybe set up your Metatron's cubes better for when you get to level 9, because Metatron's cubes are very important when you get there. You'll see that, I think, in this game. But let me talk real quick about what we did last weekend. I did not put out a Dev Diary last week because I didn't do any work on Platon, because it was the Platon Dev Diary. And I do hope to give a proper post-mortem to it. It was a lot of fun. It was a game jam where we were challenged to do an entire game in 24 hours. Our game, or the theme of the weekend was Your Life is Your Currency. And so we made a game in which you work in a corporate office block that happens to be ran and operated by vampires. So you have to perform basic menial office jobs while dodging your middle management. I thought it was really fun. It was a great concept. We did get quite a bit of it implemented. There were some pretty significant setbacks, in particular involving our source control, trying to pass the files back and forth between each other. Ended up actually having some pretty big problems. I was working with one other person, but we got that fixed eventually. We just weren't able to get as much done as we would have liked. We did get the task system and the event system where things can happen throughout the game and add new tasks. We didn't quite get the vampire where we wanted him to be, although he does patrol and hunt and hurt you. There's still a lot that could have been done with the game, but I think it has a lot of potential, and I thought it was really, and overall, the real thing is that the game jam was a lot of fun, and it got to test me specifically for level design and graphics and that kind of stuff. So, but this week I'm back, I'm working on Platon, and you can see that I'm taking at least some of what I've learned and whatnot and applying it here. So now we are in level 9, and you can see, so it's going to start getting more and more frantic at this point. And you can tell it's getting more frantic because the very edges of the game will begin to warp and twist, and it's called it's what's referred to as chromatic aberration. So at this point the game's speeding up further and further and further. You can tell it's getting pretty frantic. The edges of the screen are starting to melt away. It's just falling apart more and more and more. And this allows, this actually feels really good as far as I'm concerned. Or like when I've played it, this feels super good. If you get to number 9, just having it constantly speed up and becoming more and more frantic, and you can get the feeling that it's becoming more and more frantic because your piece is moving around. Any rate, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching this Dev Diary on Platon by Aleph Null Productions. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at Aleph Null Productions, and you can watch me stream development on Fridays on twitch.tv/Ashtarothi. I stream playing other video games throughout the week and stream development when I am doing it. Support me on Patreon, and you can follow me on itch.io, try my game, and give me some solid feedback. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.